G'day guys, welcome back to Wombat Gaming. Going to be doing a quick video for you guys on how to set up a new character. I've played over 100 hours of Starfield, and I guess I'm going to just give my insights to what I feel would be the best background to pick and traits going forward. So I'm going to go through each one of these as fast as I can and give you my insights as to which ones have what their pros and cons are, I guess you could say. I will start with this guy, the Beast Hunter. He's at the first on the list, so we'll go through the traits that you do get with him. Well, I guess you'd say skills with this background. So these are skills. So this isn't something that is mentioned, I guess, when you are starting a character. What they're going to do is they're just going to add a point to the skill tree for you without having to use the skills yourself. So you get 3 free skill points. So with Beast Hunter, essentially you're getting fitness. Now, fitness gives you, at level 1, 10% more oxygen available. So if you're running around on a planet and you're using a lot of oxygen, giving you that extra 10% is allowing you to run faster. It also allows you to, maybe if you are overburdened with weight, to run further, because oxygen is one of those things that allows you to do more in game. So if you have no oxygen, you are slowing down, you are walking, you're not able to run, you're not able to carry as much, etc. So as you level up oxygen in game, it goes from 10% to 20 to 30, etc. So it is not a bad skill to start off with, and something seriously worth considering. But you do get 3 with Beast Hunter. The second one is quite a good one. If you like using a rifle or ballistic weapons, then this is a good one to start off with as well, because ballistic weapons, this particular first skill gives you an extra 10% damage straight off. So you're able to inflict 10% more damage to other weapons if you're using ballistic weapons. So bear in mind, it is only for ballistic weapons and it won't work for other types of weapons in game. So keep that in mind with your style of gameplay, I guess you could say. Gastronomy, the first one, it basically allows you to craft special foods and drinks in the and recipes in the research lab. That's something that you're probably not going to want to do straight away. In fact, in my other character, I don't think I've even crafted anything yet at all. So that would be, in my opinion, a wasted skill point. So you really, in this character, I think obviously ballistics, if you're going to be using that type of weapon, absolutely. But fitness, I think, is the other important one. So you're getting 2 good skills out of 3. So I think maybe, depending on your gameplay style, it might be one to skip. Okay, next we have the Bouncer. This guy has some interesting skills that you can work on. They are geared towards a melee build, which is something that, being the first one, is boxing. So the boxing skill is going to give you unarmed attacks do 25% more damage and 25% less O2 used when you use a power attack. Now, I am not a melee build player, so I would never pick this skill. In game, I think that's one thing that the community is talking about, is a real lack of melee weapons. So it's probably something that I would stay clear of. There are a few melee weapons in game, knives and swords and things like that, but there is a real lack. You can't mod them. So I would say boxing is probably a big no for me, unless you really want to go into this build as a melee build and you're going to be using your hands, and then I would definitely think about this skill. But other than that, I would say most people are going to use a weapon in game most of the time, so not a good skill to have. The security trait is another good one, but it's not an early game one. The first one enables you to hack advanced locks, and you get 2 auto attempts that can be banked. When you go into lockpicking, you'll see what the auto banking means. But the advanced locks is super handy. I guess I did come across a few advanced locks, so that's something that you will get loot out of those possible, say, safes, or you might be behind a door. There might be weapons or armor that you need. So that is something to worth consider, and it is something that you would use early to mid game for sure. Fitness is the next one. So with fitness, the first is going to give you again that extra 10% oxygen available that we talked about in the previous one with the Beast Hunter. So a Bouncer has fitness as well. So you do have 2 good skills here. They're going to give you an extra point. It's just that the boxing one, in my opinion, is not worth it at all. Alright guys, my favorite background is the bounty hunter. This guy is super cool. Let's face it, this is a space game and this guy has some really good starship skills that are going to come in handy. So the first one we're going to look at is the piloting skills. Look, the first level isn't that amazing. It's you can now utilize ship thrusters, but it heads you off in the right direction. So this skill, when it's maxed out, is going to allow you to fly C-class ships, B-class basically ships, and C-class ship. That is something that's going to have to be a must in game. You're going to want to get to this early. You're going to want to fly the B and C-class ships as soon as you can. They are pretty cool. All right, so the next one is target control systems. So this particular skill is super handy as well when you're flying. The first one basically unlocks the ship's targeting functionality. So it enables you to target ships, and therefore without this skill you cannot board a ship, and therefore you can't, ransack it or take the ship for yourself. Definitely a must to have in your skill tree, and you can rank that up. Obviously just reduces the amount of time and the targeting and all that sort of stuff. So you can have a look into that skill if you like, but definitely a must. So that one is an absolute must for sure. And then boost pack training. This one, everybody's going to want this one. So first, basically it allows you to utilize the boost pack. Without this you can't utilize one, so that first tier is absolute must. And after that it basically just enables you to use less fuel and use the boost pack more often, I guess. So yeah, so this one definitely a favorite. I would definitely consider using bounty hunter. It's, in my opinion, probably one of my absolute top favorites, and we'll go through the list at the end and tell you what the best ones are. All right, guys, we have the chef next. This one is probably my least favorite, to be honest. Again, we have that gastronomy thing, which basically allows you to cook foods, and it's quite boring, to be honest. You find lots of food when you're running around the map anyway, and something to probably be a mid-game to late game option, I'd say, at this stage. Dueling, that's the next one. So this one is again a melee weapon build. So if you are looking at a melee weapon build, then this one, would basically go in hand with the boxing trait. It gives you melee weapons do 25% more damage. So something to consider if you do like that melee build. Again, I'd be skipping over it. And the scavenging skill isn't too bad to have, to be honest. This one gives you an extra chance to find credits when searching containers. So it doesn't tell you what that percentage is. That one there is like, it's up to you. You're going to get more credits when you're searching, and they are scattered around, so you do find containers that have credits in them. I wouldn't say this is an absolute must. I didn't find I had a problem finding money in the end. There are ways to get money, and I don't think having this scavenging skill is really going to boost your money that much. Even as you level up, the amount of money you're finding gets higher and higher, so having scavenging is probably not one of those things I'd be bothered with. So this particular skill, I wouldn't be using skill points on it. The background chef, yep, I'd be giving this one a miss. Okay guys, we have the combat medic next. I'll add some interesting skills here. The pistol certification. Pistols do 10% more damage, and that scales up as you do rank that particular skill up. Again, it comes down to the type of build that you're going to want to use. I don't enjoy using pistols, but some people do. So this is something that I wouldn't be picking. So be really careful about the skills that you do want to level up. This would be a mid-game pick for me, because I would only be using skill points on pistols if I had nothing else to use it on. So mid to late game on that skill. Now the medicine skill, that one gives you med packs, trauma packs, and emergency kits restore you an additional 10%. Look, an extra 10% is not that big a deal, and it does scale up 20, 30, and 50. So again, I think this is a mid to late game. Didn't really have a problem finding the med packs, trauma packs, that sort of stuff. You can heal yourself by sleeping. So I think this one is, again, not a skill I'd be looking at straight up. Okay, wellness is probably the only skill here that's of any interest. It increases your maximum health by 10%, and that does scale up to 40 as you level this up. But again, 10% in an overall scheme of things isn't really a lot. I think the background of medic is going to be something I'd be passing over completely. All right, guys, up next we have the cyber runner. This guy's skills are stealth, security, and theft. So the first one is stealth. This adds a stealth meter. You are 25% more difficult to detect when sneaking, and suppressed weapons do an additional 5% sneak attack damage. So this is pretty cool. I did level this up in my other character. It's something that I did work on. As a starting point, it's up to you. If you are the sniper, stay back and shoot type of person, I have a good sniper rifle, but I do have some good close combat guns as well. So I do like to take out, I guess, things at a distance if I can, but when you're working inside a tight situation like corridors and stuff, you're going to want to use a different type of weapon possibly. So this one can be handy, and it does, as you increase it, obviously give you better effects in the stealth tree as well. So something to consider. Okay, we've got security. Again, this one, as we said before, enables you to hack advanced locks and get those two attempts, auto attempts, to be banked. So again, something is okay, but it's kind of something you would work on mid-game, I guess, maybe early to mid-game. Not something you're going to need straight out of the box, in my opinion. So that one, I'd probably be giving that a miss as well. Okay, next we have theft. Now this one does sound interesting. Essentially, the first level gives you the ability to pickpocket targets, and then you, after that, get a greater increase as you level it up. It goes from 10 to 30 to 50. Now, the only pros and cons to this one are, I did try this out in my other character, and to be honest, I tried it a few times and with not much success, and then I stopped using it. So it really was a waste of a skill point, in my opinion. So, and the things that I did get from doing the initial pickpocketing on these successful attempts were pretty average. So guys, again, this one I'd be giving a miss. So Cyber Runner, in my opinion, gets a big thumbs down. And yeah, let's look at the next one. Okay, guys, we have now the cyberneticist. And the first skill that we have is medicine, as we spoke about in the earlier med packs, trauma packs, things like that. Do 10% additional health, 10% faster. Again, something that I didn't have a problem with. There are ways to heal yourself in game, and there are plenty of health items lying around that if you pick them up will heal you. So this one is definitely a miss for me. And next we have the security again. This is the attempt to advance advanced locks. You can now do that. So this one, again, it's not a game changer. I would do this in game if you want it. If you're finding you're coming across a lot of locks that you can't open, then maybe use one of your skill points once you get into that scenario. But as a starting off point, I would just not use this one at all. All right, now we have lasers, guys. Lasers, I'm not sure I'm a big fan of either. I don't like laser weapons that much, but I haven't really played around too much with laser weapons in game just yet. I have got one laser gun. It's not too bad, but I do prefer my ballistic guns. The laser weapons gives you 10% more damage. So overall, this particular background, I'd be giving it a thumbs down, because if you were inclined to be going a laser option, then you could do that in game as soon as you got a point, but you'd be wasting the other 2 points, I reckon, on medicine and security. So yeah, the cyberneticist, I would be giving it a big thumbs down as well. Okay, up next, guys, we have the Diplomat. We've obviously talked about persuasion before. Just gives you that 10% increase when talking to somebody, something that you could do in game. And again, we have commerce, which enables you to, I guess, buy and sell, and you're making that extra 5%, which we talked about not being that particularly a big thing, to be honest. Money can be found here and there and everywhere. And then, of course, we've got the wellness again, which just increases your maximum health by 10%. And that scales up. So that's probably the only one in that tree that I actually do like. And so I'd be giving the Diplomat a big thumbs down as well. Okay, guys, up next we have the Explorer. We have the lasers again. So this is, again, if you're wanting to use the laser weapon, it's super handy. And then we have Astrodynamics. Now, this one here gives you an increased jump range for your drives in your ship. Grav jumps are something that you're going to be doing a lot. But I did find this not a real big deal, to be honest. It's not too hard to grav jump from one planet to another, or a few planets to another. Again, it's something that is probably more mid-game. If you've got spare skill points to use, I'd be using that on sort of like mid-game. Next, we have the surveying. So surveying is an interesting one as well, but it gives, which you will use, and I definitely recommend using skill points as soon as you start to explore planets. It gives you additional zoom on your hand scanner. It increases it to 20 meters and then that scales up. So 20, 30, 40, so forth. Definitely work on the skills surveying once you get the opportunity. It does come in handy, especially on hostile planets when you're trying to survey, if that's something that you're interested in doing. Essentially, it just allows you to be further away, or you can see more when you're looking for resources as well at greater distances. So definitely something I'd work on in game, but as far as the other ones in this particular tree, unless you are definitely considering lasers and surveying, you may consider this explorer trait background to be of some use, but I'll be giving it the thumbs down as well. Okay guys, now we have the Gangster. This gives you the shotgun certification, which gives you 10% more damage to shotguns. Super handy if you do find a good shotgun. They're good for close quarter combat, and it does scale up 20, 30 kills, grant a small chance of stun. Don't really like the fourth skill in the shotguns tree, but anyway, the scaling goes up to 30 in up to 3, so not a bad skill to have. Again, we have the boxing, which is funny. They're matching a melee build with a shotgun in this particular one, so not 100% liking the boxing one. And then theft, as we said before, so not a skill I'd be using that much. So this particular Gangster background, I'd be giving it the thumbs down as well. Okay guys, up next we have the Homesteader. We have a couple of new skills here that we haven't seen yet. One is the Geology, and this one, it basically just gives you more common organic resources from the surface. This is something that you would probably want to use as you start to think about settlements, etc., or while you're surveying and collecting resources. It is handy to have, but I wouldn't be using it as a first skill point. The next one, we have the surveying. I said this is a good one as it increases your scanner range, and something worth working on as you start the game and start to use your scanner more often. So something to think about. And then weightlifting. Now weightlifting is pretty good because this increases your carry capacity by 10 kilos, and then it goes up to 25 kilograms, 50 kilograms, and then 100 kilograms. And essentially at the last perk, you gain a resistance to stagger as well. So out of the three, the only one that's probably really handy is weightlifting. If you want, this one gives you that additional carry, which can be a problem in this game when you overburdened. Having anything on you that enables you to carry more would be definite must. But again, the other two are things that I wouldn't be worrying about first up. So really, this is another thumbs down for me. Okay guys, up next we have the Industrialist. This one has again the persuasion, just being able to persuade when it can reduce the cost of things. And definitely I think this is something in game, as you start to get into it, you're going to want to put points into. It does save you a little bit of money if you want to, and it helps you get out of situations or work situations to your advantage. The security one, again, this is just what we covered before. So the lockpicking ability could be of use, but use it when you're in game and use those points. I wouldn't be worrying about this first up as a starting point. The first one we've got in this one that's new is the research methods. So research methods basically allows you to craft items and complete research projects at a reduced cost, so by 10%, and it scales up as you do. You're not going to do a lot of researching to begin with. It's something that you're going to probably look at mid-game or maybe early mid-game, but first up, this is something that you're probably not going to want. So this particular background, I'd be giving it a thumbs down as well. Okay, up next guys is the Long Hauler. This guy is probably one of my favorites as well. You get that weightlifting skill, which enables you to carry more items. And then we have that piloting skill, which is absolute must in game. So definitely those two are musts for me. And then the new one we have here is the ballistic weapon systems for your ship. Basically, it gives you ballistic ship weapons and 10% increased damage, and a cost of 20% less to use in the targeting mode. So that scales up as you level it as well. So it is super handy when you're getting into a dogfight in outer space with a pirate or something. So having that additional damage would be a absolute must in my opinion. So these are skills that you're gonna definitely want to use. So long hauler gives a big tick for me. I think it's one of those ones you definitely should consider, being this is a space game. And yeah, I love the long hauler. My main character is based off the long hauler, and it just saved me those 3 skill points straight up. Right, next we have the Pilgrim. This one has the scavenging trait, which gets you more credits in containers. Doesn't tell you what the percentage is, and again, I did say that credits aren't a real problem in game. Surveying the planet with the surveying skill gives you that additional distance on your hand scanner, which definitely would be using points in game. But then you have the gastronomy as well, and that's not something I'd be using as well. There's plenty of food lying around, and I haven't thought about using a skill point in that particular tree at all, and it's something you'd probably use late game with spare skill points that you do have. So Pilgrim's a big thumbs down for me as well. Okay, up next we have the Professor. The first one, that asteroid dynamics, this gives you that increased jump range for your ship. And then we have the geology trait, which allows you to find more minerals when you're hunting for them. And then we have research methods, which cuts down on the amount of times that and amount of resources you use. All these particular skills are things that you're not going to want to use straight up. You're going to want to use them in the game, mid-game or early mid-game. So I would not worry about this straight up. So the Professor is something I'd be definitely giving a miss. Big thumbs down. Okay, up next is the Ronin. Sounds pretty cool, but he does have that dueling. Again, it's a melee build, so it's only if you're going to be running around with a sword or a knife. So if something that you want to use in a build, absolutely. And then we have stealth. As we said, stealth weapons, you get an increased damage and you get to sneak around a little bit better, which is something you would definitely want to use a skill point on if you are going to be using long range weapons in game anyway. But then we have that scavenging skill as well, which is something, as I said before, it's not really that helpful. So really the only skill for me in this particular tree here is the stealth one, so I wouldn't be wasting the other 2 skill points. So I guess Ronin for me, unfortunately, as cool as it sounds, gets a big thumbs down. All right, up next we have the Sculptor. Quite an unusual name for a character in my opinion, and the skills don't really reflect what a sculptor would do. But anyway, the medicine, again, something that we talked about, not something that we really would use in game. There are plenty of med packs and food, and you can sleep to heal yourself in game, so it's not an early game skill I'd be using. Geology, again, not something I'd be using early game. It's just finding those extra minerals. And the persuasion one, it's probably the only one that's worth your skill point early on, is being able to persuade situations. So probably the only skill in that out of those 3 I'd be wanting. So I wouldn't be wasting those extra 2 on this particular character. Give the Sculptor a big thumbs down. Right, up next we have the Soldier. So we have, first up is fitness. Now this one gives you 10% more oxygen, and it does scale up. Oxygen is pretty important. I wouldn't say it's probably something you'd need straight up. So the skill point I would definitely be looking at, because when you get into combat situations or you're carrying lots of weight on you, having more oxygen allows you to move faster and get places quicker. And then we have, of course, ballistics. This is the ballistic weapon, obviously. So if you're going to be going around and using rifles or pistols, then ballistics would be something super handy to have. And then with the boost pack training, definitely a must in game. If you want to use your boost pack, this enables you to use them. You can't use them without this particular skill. So not too bad, the Soldier, and not my favorite, but definitely in the top 3 I'd say so far. Consider Soldier definitely, and we'll go over the final 3 at the end and tell you what my thoughts are. Up next we have the Space Scoundrel. Again, we have the pistol certification, not something that I would enjoy using. I don't like using pistols in game, so again, a preference for you, whether you enjoy it or not. And then we have a must skill, which is the piloting. There's a lot of ship flying in this game, so you're going to want piloting and level that up as soon as you can. I've got a good video on piloting that shows you how to level that skill up and get that sorted out very quickly. So check that video out if you are enjoying piloting. And again, guys, if this video is of any help to you at all, please hit that like button. The likes help me as a small YouTube creator, and consider subscribing as well if they want to see more content that I'm putting out. Anyway, we have the persuasion one next, which is obviously we talked about earlier, where you can talk your way out of situations or get the prices of, say, companions reduced, things like that. Definitely there's two skills in here that I would be definitely going for. Piloting is an absolute must, and persuasion can be pretty handy. But again, the three together, would you waste, unless you were considering purely a pistol build, then this would be a must for a pistol build. This would be a pretty good one. Out of the other ones we saw, it would probably be no, but this one here I think is pretty good as a pistol build goes. Okay, now we have the biologist. This one, again, we have the laser build. So if you're liking the laser weapons, it's something you may not know until you start playing the game. So again, probably not a skill I'd be using straight up until you get a handle of a couple of guns and work out which one is your favorite. I would probably give that on a miss. Surveying, that one is a good one. When you get your hand scanner, you're going to want that increased distance. And of course, fitness, having a little bit more oxygen enables you to do more. So this isn't too bad, this particular one. It's not the worst out of a lot of them, but it's not the one I'd be going for. So, but definitely not the worst of them. So this one I'm impartial to. All right, now we have the exobiologist. This isn't too bad. I'm impartial to this one. It's not the worst one out of a lot. The only thing I would say is you may not know what type of gun you're going to be using in game or what your favorite guns are. And so early game, having a point used on lasers when you maybe decide, oh, I don't like lasers, I'm going to stick with ballistics, might be a wasted point. The surveying, definitely something that you want to use in game. It increases the distance that you can survey with your hand scanner, and I found it super helpful when scanning planets for resources and things like that. And fitness gives you that extra oxygen, which enables you to run faster and further. And when you've got, say, if you have too much weight carry on you and you're overburdened, having more oxygen will allow you to get places quicker as well. So this one isn't too bad. It's not the worst of them, and I'd definitely be giving it a consideration. Lucky last is the file not found. This one, basically, again, that wellness one that we talked about earlier, which really is not a big deal in my opinion in game. Plenty of things around giving you an extra boost of 10%. It's not worth it. Ballistics are pretty good. Absolutely, if you're thinking that you're definitely going to be a ballistics player and you want to use rifles and handguns, this is something that I enjoy using, but I knew that already coming in the game, so this one I worked on straight away if I was going to. The piloting, then that's a must in game, so this one isn't too bad. I'm impartial to this one as well, but the wellness is probably the downside for me. I wouldn't be selecting this one as well, so I guess overall I'd probably give it a big thumbs down. Okay guys, now to the top three that I would think are the best ones to pick in the background traits. The bounty hunter would definitely be in there. Piloting is an absolute must in game. Targeting control systems, again, something that you're going to want to have when flying your ship. And the boost pack training, well, everyone wants the boost pack and you're going to want that straight up. So I bet this is a definite top three. Okay, now we have the soldier. Definitely sneaks into the top three, I think, as well. Fitness is super important. Again, ballistics, I put this in my top three because I love using ballistic weapons, so it may not be in your top three if you don't and you want to use the laser. But again, it has that boost pack training as well, which is an absolute must in game. So this one gives you those 3 points straight up, and definitely worth considering soldier. Okay, going back to my favorite one, the long hauler is definitely my favorite. It gives you that additional weight carrying capacity to begin with, which you're going to definitely want as your character starts out. Piloting, as I said, is an absolute must in game. It's one of the first things you want to throw a point into, and having ballistic weapon systems on your ship definitely gives you the advantage. So those are my top three. Either of those three that I've mentioned would be absolutely worth it starting out in. I don't think any of the other backgrounds are that important, as those particular skills you can put them in as you like as you start to level up in game anyway. So this is really about giving you 3 points straight up and giving you that small advantage as you're going into the game. All right guys, now we're on to traits. We're going to go through each one of these really quickly and I'll give you the pros and cons to what I've found. The alien DNA is a pretty good one. It essentially gives you an increased starting health and oxygen. So as I said earlier, the oxygen is going to be pretty important, and having increased health is pretty handy as well. The only thing is that food items don't heal you, and healing items don't feel you as effective. So that could be something to consider. I haven't come across any real problems. My health does get quite low sometimes, but I just pause, go through my inventory and find as much items as I can to try and heal myself. If you're picking up the items as you go through the game, you shouldn't have a problem with this one. Now we have the Dream Home next. The Dream Home, I did try this one out in my other character and I was extremely disappointed, to be honest. $125,000 credit mortgage, 125,000 straight up. I mean, there are pros and cons. It really didn't affect me that badly in game, to be honest, but the house itself was already pre-established. There was no building required. So if you're not into settlement building or don't want to be bothered with that, I guess this home does allow you a place to store your stuff and set up a little workbench and set up some displays and things like that. So it has its has its pros and cons. For me, I do like the settlement aspect and even storing stuff on my ship. There's gun racks and things you can do to do that on your ship. For me, the Dream Home wasn't. I was a bit disappointed, to be honest. So yeah, I'd probably be giving that one a miss. Okay, guys, we have Empath next, and this one, basically, it gives you performing actions your companions like result in a temporary increase in a combat effectiveness. But then on the other hand, if you do things that they don't like, which this game is full of, it does the opposite effect. So I found this one can be a bit not so good, to be honest, if you are going to be running around with companions. If you're going to be doing it by yourself, not a problem, but you're going to have lots of companions. You're going to use them on your ship. You're going to use them in your settlements. So I wouldn't be picking this one because you're going to want to steal things every now and then. You're going to want to do the wrong thing sometimes, and you're just going to annoy your companions, and then they're not going to be as willing to do things for you, or they could even possibly just leave you completely if you do enough bad things. So this one is a negative trait in my opinion, and I wouldn't be using this one either. All right, we have the Extrovert. Exerting yourself uses less oxygen when adventuring with human companions, but more when adventuring alone. So if you are going to be using companions, which I found I'm actually doing, I've played most Bethesda games by myself and don't like having a companion next to me, and even in Fallout 4 I didn't tend to use the companion very much. So for me, I'm actually using companions quite a bit and don't mind. You are using them on your ship. They are of benefit on your star ship, and you will be using them in settlements. So I think having companions in game is a plus. So this could be pretty good. As I said in the earlier bit when we're talking about skills, oxygen is pretty handy. So the Extrovert skill is something to consider, and we'll pop that into our one of 3 traits and see how we go. It means we cannot use the Introverts trait, but if you are going to be considering playing this game purely with no companions, then go for that one. But as I said earlier, I think you're going to want to use companions. They are pretty handy. You're going to want them on your ship. You're going to want them in your settlement, and having one tag along to be able to carry items for you as well is something that a lot of people don't think about. Your companions enable you to carry more stuff because you can pass items off to them when you're out in the field and you all of a sudden are over in weight. You can, depending on which character you have with you, they have obviously different carry weight abilities. You can give them some of your stuff, and that is a pretty handy thing to do. So Introvert is something that I would be definitely steering clear of, but they're totally up to you and your gaming style. Okay, next up we have the Freestar Collective Settler. Now, if you are going to be, working on one particular dialogue, so Freestar Collective, it gives you better options and better rewards for some missions. So, but it is by this particular faction only. So, and it can't be combined with any other faction. Although it's not going to have a negative effect on those other factions, it just relates to Freestar. So it's something to consider, to be honest. I don't actually mind this one. Early on, you will be working with Freestar or have the option to do that. There's also the Crimson Fleet. A lot of people go down that route as well. So decide which one you want to kind of go with. They kind of are enemies in the game. So yeah, this is definitely one to consider. We'll pop it in for the moment and see how we go. Now, Hero Worship is one that I tried out and to be honest, didn't really enjoy it at all. It wasn't too bad. I ended up just using him as a companion, and the gifts that he gives you, in fact the gifts that all the companions give you, are pretty average, to be honest, in my opinion. It's pretty much just junk that they pick up. I got myself in the other character up to nearly level 30. It's like around the high 20s, and I'm still not getting good items from them, so I'm not sure that having the Hero Worship on is going to be worth it. The gifts that he gives you are pretty average, so give Hero Worshipped a complete miss in my opinion. All right, so kid stuff is another one where you get parents, and I haven't really delved into it a lot. I have seen some videos where people, again, they get, gifts from their parents and things like that. You lose 10% of your credits, which, isn't really a lot, to be honest. So it is something, if you want to play around with, it might be worth checking out. I haven't got a lot of information on kid stuff, to be honest, just what I've seen from other people, and it's probably one that I'd probably give a miss, considering you're only getting 3 traits. So yeah, let's have a look at the next one, which is Neon Street Rat. Now this one, as I said, is got to do with the alliances that you have in the game. So we selected Freestar. You can see now it has a cross next to it. So you basically cannot select this Neon, and United Colonies down the bottom as well. You can't select that one, which is, again, when we get to it, I'll actually cover it now. United Colonies is something early on that you have the ability to join, and there are some pretty cool missions with United Colonies. In all honesty, if I was going to choose between Freestar and United Colonies at this stage, I think the United Colonies is probably the better of them. So, but it does stop you from using the Neon Street Rat one as well. Now you can still use and join these other factions. It just, as I said, just the better rewards from some missions and dialogue options change. So early on, I think you're going to do more with United Colonies. But if you're looking like not going to worry about that too early, and you want to look at Neon Street Rat as the crime one, then you could go with that. So that's an option as well. For this playthrough on this character, I'm going to select the Neon Rat actually, just to try something different. I have been to Neon a couple of times, but it'd be interesting to see what sort of faction rewards we do get from selecting this. So we're going to pop that in for the time being. Okay, up next, guys, we have the Raised Enlightened. This one, it gives you the ability to enter the House of the Enlightened in New Atlantis and access their, I guess, their chest, sacred chest. So you get items from this chest. And of those items can be some med packs, and then some 2 hearts, which are for, health restoration. And I think there's like a packet of Boop Cola or something in there. The settler outfits that you get, I think there's a couple of outfits in the chest as well. So the chest outfits are pretty handy. They give you a 10% boost to your health, I believe. So that's something that could be of interest. But you would be using a trait skill point, or like one of the 3 on this particular thing. So not sure if it's worth it, in my opinion. So I'll give this one a miss for the moment, and we'll have a look at the next one, which is Raised Universal. Now again, this one is very similar to the one above. It's a chest that gives you some things, essentially just getting some books, some med packs, etc. There's some urban wear that you're getting in there as well. So this one, I think it gives you a 5% energy, no, 5% oxygen recovery on it, I'm pretty sure. So it can be handy early on when you're in the survival stage. That extra oxygen can be handy, but again, is it worth using one of your traits on this particular thing? I don't think it is. So we'll go to the next one, and we'll have a look at the Serpent's Embrace. All right, with this particular trait, it's got some pros and cons to it. The grav jumping provides you a temporary boost to your health and oxygen, which is pretty good, but it is I think it is only 4 hours, and that's in-game hours. So you'd have to be grav jumping quite a bit in order to have this usefully used. And if you're not using it and it does expire, it has a negative effect on your health and oxygen. So it's again one of those ones I'd be giving a miss to. As you notice, when I do select one of these, it crosses out the top 2. So it's the same with that. So you can only have one of these 3. So I would probably be giving all 3 a miss, to be honest, at this particular time. So we'll have a look at the next one, and we'll obviously, when we get to the end, we'll finalize what I think is going to be the best traits. Okay, we have the spaced trait next. Essentially, you've been in space for a long time and you've acclimatized to it, so your health and oxygen are increased when you're in space, but they're decreased when you're on the surface. Now, I don't think this is one that you should pick, because you are in space a bit, but you're usually in a ship. There are times where you are on a space station, and this might count towards that because you technically are still in space. But most of the time when you're on land, you're going to be on an actual moon or a planet. And if you do select this, it does cross out terra firma, this one here. So we'll have a look at that one now. But this one here is you've never acclimated to space, so your health and oxygen are increased when you're on a surface. but decrease when you're in space. So this one is actually one that is fairly good, and I think it's worth considering, because having that increased health and oxygen would definitely be a plus. I've noticed when you're running and you on certain planets you can run forever and jump forever, but some moons or planets you can't. You're really weighed down. And if you're carrying a lot of weight too, having that increased oxygen is of definite health. And obviously if you're in a gunfight on a planet or a moon, and having that extra health and oxygen is going to come in handy as well. So definitely one to add to our traits. We've only got a couple left. So we have the Tasked Master now. This one, occasionally if you have a crew trained in a certain ship system, that system will automatically repair itself to full health. It is damage below 50, or crew costs twice as much to hire. There's pros and cons to this one. Once you hire a crew member, it's a one-off fee anyway, so it's not really a big deal, but this, I will point out, the crew hire sometimes can be quite expensive. You're looking at 18,000 credits, I think, is for one of them I've hired recently. You can talk that down in persuasion if you save before you try the talk, the persuasion talk with them. Save before you do that. You could theoretically just run it until you get them down to, like, I think 9,000 is the cheapest, so 9,000 credits is quite a bit. So if you even double that 18, that's doubling quite a bit. And if you're doubling the persuasion cost for hiring, it's up to 18. So although when you're in ship fights, having your ship repair itself to full health is really handy. There've been a few situations where I haven't had ship parts to repair and it's gotten pretty hairy, or I've had my ship blow up and I've had to go back to an old save. So that one is, it's one worth considering, how much time you're going to be spending in space. And those crew members, just remember, once you have paid for them, they are yours forever. So it is a one-off fee, but it is a big one-off fee, so keep that in mind. All right, we've got the last one now, which is the Wanted trait. Someone's put a price on your head, and occasionally mercenaries will show up and try to kill you, but the corner gives you an edge. When your health is low, you do extra damage. This one, I'm not sure whether this works outside of the armed mercenary situation. I've been trying to find out and try and get a clear answer on this one, but I haven't been able to. So if you've got some information on this one, please share it in the comments below. But essentially, my thoughts are, when the mercenaries show up, you've been cornered gives you an edge. When your health is low, you do extra damage. So it could work two ways. It could work in that situation, your health is low, you do extra damage, or it could be when you're in low health all the time, you do extra damage. Now, I played a fair bit of Fallout 76, and there are skills or perks in that game where you are running with a low health build all the time, just so you can get that extra damage. And that is really helpful. I've tried to do that in game in my last character to try and keep it at low health, but it is extremely hard to keep him at low health without dying. So maybe something to skip over, in my opinion. So yeah, so I think I've settled on the three that I'm going to do with this character. As I said, the extrovert, super handy, having your companions around. Having that extra oxygen is going to be super handy, I think. And then we got Neon Street Rat, just to try something different, to get some different rewards and dialogue options with the Neon area when we go there. And then Terra Firma, as I said, you spend a lot of time on the ground fighting enemies, and having that increased health and oxygen is going to be super handy. Now guys, these not be the right ones for you. Please let me know what your thoughts are below. If you think another trait should have been in the list, by all means let me know, and tell me what your favorite traits are as well and why you like them. I'd love to hear from you and have that conversation with you guys. Once again guys, if you're enjoying these videos, please hit that like button. I'm just a small YouTuber, and it really does go a long way at helping me out. And if they're of any help to you, these videos, please hit that subscribe button. I'm going to be doing a lot more videos. I love this game. I'm going to be playing this for the next few years for sure, and look forward to making more videos for you guys. So I will see you on the next video. Thanks again guys.